Hi, my name is James Fox, and I am the director and producer of the recently released documentary film, The Phenomenon. I am sitting here in the basement of Paul David's house in Santa Fe, New Mexico. You can see his paintings on the wall behind me. The gentleman that did Roswell, the film Roswell, back in the 90s. Anyway, I've been asked to give a little presentation about why I made the film and what I'd like to see happen, as well as acknowledge many of my supporters for their continued support and helping get the word out. I made the film because I feel like I never succeeded with my initial goal 26 years ago in creating this seminal documentary film on the topic of UFOs, something that could transcend the UFO community and penetrate a much broader audience. And I feel like I came close with Out of the Blue, I Know What I Saw, 50 Years of Denial, probably less so, but I was never quite fully satisfied. And so I took all the little mistakes that I'd made in the past 20-something years and applied them in the production of The Phenomenon. I covered a snapshot of history because I feel like without the first half of the film, the general public would never believe the second half of the film. I want to, from the bottom of my heart, thank each and every one of you for helping get this film out into the world. Phone calls, emails, just a little message, maybe a rating on iTunes or Rotten Tomatoes. Everything really helps, and I greatly appreciate all of your support. We have a little call to action at the end of the film. That was an idea that one of our producers, thank God, came up with, Dan Farah. We're very fortunate to have him on our team. He produced Ready Player One with Steven Spielberg, and he said, James, you should really have a call to action at the end. And I thought, that's a great idea, And so we, up until like about 6 weeks ago, before the film was released, we were in the edit room making some final changes. And just so people can contact the representative and let them know that we would like further government transparency on what might turn out to be the greatest story of mankind. So that's it. I hope this is just a short little video to share with you guys. I greatly appreciate your support, and let's see what happens in 2021. I think it's going to be a very exciting year. Thanks. Bye.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Engaging the Phenomenon, bringing clarity to the unidentified and what we like to call the phenomenon. And today in this Ask UFO Twitter video, we're going to be discussing The Phenomenon by James Fox. Now, super big thanks to James Fox for participating in this video. That is super awesome of him. So thanks a lot, James. Now, The Phenomenon was a remarkable documentary covering the topic of UFOs, and I think that this film is going to stand firmly as the new flagship for UFO documentaries. And I almost don't want to even call it a UFO documentary because it feels like so much more than that. At least that's how I felt watching it myself. The caliber of people that participated in the film, from Senator Harry Reid, Jacques Vallée, Dr. Gary Nolan, and many others. That's remarkable within itself. But the film was able to put together, facts, history, without delving into too much speculation, and presenting facts, evidence, and a really incredible and important topic. Whether you're somebody who's not familiar with UFOs, or if you are somebody, say, in the UFO community who is familiar with UFOs, I think overall that this film is going to communicate a very powerful message and is framed in such a way that, again, it's a very powerful communication tool.
The Phenomenon movie is the best documentary ever produced covering UFOs. For starters, there's no boring parts, there's no fluff or anything like that that leads to a lack of engagement. Further, all of the witnesses, the documents shared, and the UFO events covered in the film are of the highest credibility and corroboration. And there's no way that anyone could say that it's merely a desperate attempt in concocting dot connecting to make it appear that there could be something to UFOs being real. In the final analysis, if you watch this film with care, and yet you're still well over 99% certain that going back decades and decades, every single UFO sighting has been nothing more than misidentifications and or delusion, then you're probably not nearly as objective as you think you are.
Big shout out to James at Engaging the Phenomenon for getting me on camera and getting me to come out and do this review of James Fox's The Phenomenon. It was a great show. It was an amazing movie. 70 years, foundation, bedrock, knowledge, encyclopedia of truth. James Fox's Phenomenon. That's what it is. It's an encyclopedia of truth. What it is, it's the data, oral history, video, audio. The cinematography was amazing. I loved how we got to some of these crash sites that we had seen and read about in different films. But then you got a drone, and you got a drone to go over the actual crash site, and you can just see it in its glory, and see like the actual place where these people were at and had these experiences. And the people who had these experiences, they did that because that's what this thing is all about, experiences, the phenomenon, and people experiencing it, or it experiencing people, I guess, if you can look at it that way. We're experiencing each other, but what it is that when people have these experiences, everybody who has had these experiences or knows somebody who's had these experiences, it fundamentally changes their life. It turns them towards a quest for the truth, and everything. And I think that's what this movie showcases. It showcases everybody's foundational quest for the truth. When you look at the Ariel school kids, or you get these kids that had this experience, 20 years ago, has fundamentally changed the way that they view reality. And what does that do? I think that's a great thing. I think that what he does is he legitimizes, if you want to say that, for people who've had experiences that don't want to talk about it, that were afraid to talk about it because of ridicule and whatever else. I think what it does is it allows those people to have a voice now, to come out and say, hey, we should be paying attention to this. We need to call our senators or congressmen. We need to do all this. We need to get it paid attention to, because it's real and it's happening, and we're not. I think that, the Senate bill passing was a great step. I think everything that TTSA is doing is great. I think anybody out there can do this. Anybody can get on a platform, get somewhere, talk to somebody, tell somebody to watch this movie. The movie was great. James Fox, thank you. You did an amazing job. I applaud you. James, from Engaging the Phenomenon, thank you for bringing me out of my cave and encouraging me to do this and make this review. James Fox is The Phenomenon. I can't say more about it. We all know a lot about it already. And the people that don't should, so get them to watch it and keep asking questions.
Before I review The Phenomenon, I think it's worth talking about what James was doing in the early 2000s. I'll give you an example. So there's an interview out there where I believe it was filmed in 2002, where he talks about how it took him 2 years of trying to get the sixth man on the moon, Edgar Mitchell, to do an interview with him. This is the kind of persistence, diligence, and pure intent of James Fox. It is a testament to his character, of how much he cares about the subject and the kinds of people he was able to get to and continues to bring to the table. So The Phenomenon, I believe, is an amalgamation of exactly that kind of effort, only amplified. And I believe that The Phenomenon is exactly the kind of documentary the UFO community needs in order to bridge the gap between what I consider an insider's club and the outside world. Most people have no idea the level of depth that The Phenomenon reaches, the global aspect of it. And the phenomenon does a great job at covering both the depth and the breadth of the topic. It goes into how this has exfoliated and manifested in the terms of nuclear missiles and being able to shut them down, shutting down ICBMs, all the way to how this manifests across the world, how there are similar stories, meta patterns that just simply cannot be easily explained away as some psychological phenomenon. I'm very excited, very happy with the way that the world received the phenomenon. I thought it was a brilliant logical progression of facts and the way that it covers sort of previous and existing cases. And I think that, this is only the beginning. I think that is going to play a very pivotal role in the public zeitgeist. Cheers, and amazing work, James.
Hello again. This is Jazz Shaw from Hot Air. I want to start off by saying thank you for being invited back. On this edition of Ask UFO Twitter, we're discussing the new James Fox documentary, The Phenomenon. I already published a review of the film at our site, and I had nothing but positive things to say about it, so don't expect me to start trashing it here. I'm just going to agree up front with some of the other reviewers who have said that this movie is beyond a doubt probably the most important documentary on this subject in recent memory, possibly ever. I will not waste your time with some critical analysis of the filmmaking techniques or anything. Suffice it to say that it's slick, it's professional, the film work, the soundtrack, everything is beautifully and professionally done. But that's really not why it's important. Many people have covered some of the more important UFO incidents from our history in other films, and James Fox hits some of these highlights, but he also goes deeper with updates on older reports and new interviews, and he paints a fascinating picture all the way through. So many of the interviews with important figures from across the spectrum really hammer home the critical nature of this discussion. But here's what makes the phenomenon so different. I normally write for and speak to a sizable audience comprised almost entirely of normies. Oh, sorry. I think we're supposed to be calling them UFO civilians now or something. One of the most common sorts of pushback that I frequently get when I try to gently steer some of these people along into the reality of UAP and everything associated with the phenomena are the usual jokes about how the only people who ever see flying saucers are drunken rednecks trying to fix a flat on their pickup trucks. The phenomena shatters this stereotype. The people who are assembled to discuss the state of UAP investigations and disclosure today are, it's just such an impressive collection of scientists, government, military officials, pilots, assorted authorities. It may be overwhelming for some who are new to the topic. The information presented is so well documented and virtually unimpeachable that it's difficult to walk away from the experience without realizing that there's so much more to the subject. But not just the subject, there's so much more to our world, to the universe. It can kind of boggle the mind. If everyone watching this video can get just 2 or 3 of their normie friends to sit down and view the phenomena, and then if they react the way I believe most people will react, get them to show it to a few of their friends, I honestly believe that we might begin changing the national and global conversation. It's really that powerful. It's really that important. And the beautiful thing is that no matter how dismayed you may be over the divided nature of American society today, this subject is one that should be completely beyond partisan divisions. If your friends are of a more liberal persuasion, point out Harry Reid's participation. If they're from the other end of the spectrum, tell them about Marco Rubio's work. The UAP topic isn't about left or right, about male or female, about black or white. It's about the reality of our place in the universe and how our view of that reality is starting to shift in what I think is a very important way. And nobody's going to come away from watching the phenomena feeling like they just sat through an insulting lecture of some sort. They'll come away filled with wonder and questions. And that's what we want. We don't need a new generation of believers. And I realize the irony of saying that while I have a I want to believe poster sitting behind me. But we don't need this to be a religion. We need it to be a quest for knowledge. And I honestly believe the phenomena can be a significant moment in that quest. I've watched it twice already, and I had two of my neighbors come over and watch it because I have Amazon Prime, so I don't have to worry about being a cheapskate or anything. And one of them was already someone who was very open to the subject. The other one was somebody who, whenever I bring it up, he just sort of sits there and sort of nods along and goes, yeah, that's interesting. Are the jets on yet? And afterwards, I got several emails from him asking for more information. It's like, where did you hear about this? Where's this? And I started sending him some links. And I think now his eyes are a little more open than they were before. And I think that could happen for a lot of people. And that, to me, no matter how great you think the film is, or whether maybe you didn't think it was that great, that's why this film is important. This film can reach everybody. And we need that today more than we have for a very long time. Well, we've always needed it, but I think it's becoming more and more critical these days. And people have to become engaged. And I think what James Fox has done has delivered something that, if it can be brought out to a broad enough audience, that can really start to happen. And when that happens, when enough people get engaged, when enough people start demanding more information, we may just start getting more cooperation from the government, not just in America, globally from other governments. There was recently a big story I wrote about, and I'm sure most of you saw, where Great Britain, the UK's government, decided to lock up a really important UFO report for another 50 years with no reason given. And people need to push back against that. And the only way you do that is by getting the message to elected leaders saying, no, this is not acceptable. Go watch the phenomena. You'll see why it's not acceptable. We need to have an open conversation. So congratulations to James Fox, and thanks for listening. Anybody wants to follow me on Twitter, I'm at Jayashaw, all one word. That's about it. See you next time.
Hey UFO Twitter, Mike's here. My handle's at FoyaBoy. I just wanted to give a quick review and synopsis on the Phenomenon movie. First, I wanted to say thanks to James and the Engaging the Phenomena project for putting together these smaller projects that get out to the community. I think it's a great way to raise awareness and get people interacting with each other. And so to the Phenomenon movie, to me, was the best put together documentary on the topic I've ever seen. It does a great job marrying archived footage and established fact with modern day legislators and eyewitnesses from in my opinion, two separate events at the end of the movie, which are kind of undeniable: the Ariel school sighting and the Westall school sighting. And to me, still to this day, you cannot see these people tell their story and say that they're not being honest. So I think, if you're into history and into the military's interaction here, there's something for you. And if you're really into the human interest aspect of this film, there's something there for you as well. So a well-rounded film. There's a lot of information in there, and it can be overwhelming, but you sip from the fire hose. If you're not familiar with the topic, sit down there and just wrap your hands around what you can. Hold on. It's a great movie. I promise you, something that you could rewatch multiple times. I hope we all do get a chance to support James and making this film by going out and purchasing it, obviously. We need to support our community and content creators as best we can, especially when we're creating quality content that doesn't make this subject a joke. And this film it's calling for you to take it very seriously. And I'm proud to say that, I consider myself part of this community that this film is advocating for. And it does a great justice in highlighting the injustice that not only do experiencers and eyewitnesses have, but the injustice of the information embargo that the world has been subjected to for the past 70 plus years. So, let's continue to champion the subject, champion the film. Thank you.
Thank you so much for tuning in to Ask UFO Twitter, guys. Super thanks to all the UFO Twitter participants who participated in this video. If you have any further recommendations on Ask UFO Twitter videos and topics, make sure to drop them down in the comments. I'll see you guys next time. Take care.